us a little bit about what you've dealt with in your life. Let's go right there.
Okay. So, like I said, I was child of two alcoholics that never got along. They always fought. They ended up divorcing when I was 10. I went to live with my mom. My brother went to live with my dad, which was more traumatic than you would think. When your brother is your best friend, it's challenging not to have him there daily. And I think that was a huge impact on who I became. But even at an early age, like those things kind of help push me into do different things. At the age of 12, I started becoming an entrepreneur. Now, bear with me. I started selling anything. I was selling porn from a kid's dad that I had found. Okay. And then I went on to selling any drug you could find. I was selling it and using. There was probably, at one point, I calculated over 27 different drugs I had used. Coke, crack, heroin, you name it. I probably ingested it in my body. And of course, when you have an addictive personality like that, it's very challenging to find alternate sources of an outlet when you know those things are damaging to your life and you're constantly waking up every day wondering, am I going to get a bad batch, or am I going to, what's going to happen? I remember being in Harrisburg buying crack, and I got comfortable being in that situation. I turned my car off, let my window down. Guy comes up to the car, puts a gun to my neck, asks for all my money. I was smart enough at the time, though. I had two different money stashes. I had $100 in one pocket and another 1,000 in the other pocket. So I gave him the $100 and he left me alone. I went out, bought another $1,000 worth of crack, smoked up with some random people I didn't know, took the rest back and sold it. So that was obviously not good for anybody.
And Eric, how old were you? How old were you when this happened?
At that point, I was probably 20. 20?
Okay.
Yeah, so I used drugs all the way up until I was like 21.
And when did you start using them?
About sixth grade.
Sixth grade. Okay. And that's what I asked that because I think there's sort of like these preconceived notions of, what somebody who uses drugs looks like, or, how old they are. Right. Yep. And just looking at you right now, right. You don't look like that person. And I want people to understand
Absolutely.
that, right. Because you don't look like that person, right. But you were dealing with some really tough stuff in your life. Yep. Right. And tell us about what that was like. Like, why do you think if you had to go back, why did you turn to that lifestyle?
I mean, in hindsight, at that time, I didn't have any realization on why, but there was always a hole for everybody. And me being a Christian, I like the term, and it makes sense, and it resounds with me, is that there's a God-sized hole in everybody. And until you can find something or someone, namely, for me particularly, it was the Lord. He helped fill that void, that need, that longing for something more, and he filled that ultimately.
And those people out there right now in the position that you are at 20 years old and struggling, what's your message to them?
You have to want to. That's the main thing. You have to want to get beyond where you're at. Nothing changes if nothing changes. You have to step outside of where you're at. Sometimes it's going to be a dramatic change that makes it happen, but you got to ultimately make that decision before too many of your friends die, before you end up in a hospital, before you OD and die. I've had so many friends that have ended up dead because of the things that I had sold them. So I live with that too as well. Because when I was, like I said, I was dealing everything. I tried not to sell heroin or anything that I thought was really bad, but I know people that I sold weed to for the first time, ended up growing up doing heroin and have died. So that's played a lot into my need and desire to reconcile those wrongs by doing more good.
It's funny because you said you have to want to, and I lost my father at the age of 17 because of his addiction, and I was 17 years old. But I remember as a child going to rehab with him, right? And my mother and I and my sister, we wanted nothing more than to fix it. Yep. And we just couldn't do it, right? I talk about this on the previous podcast. We just couldn't do it, right? So I have family members right now struggling with addiction, right? And the reason why I ask you that question is, you know, some of them might listen to this. Why are you willing to tell your story? There's so many people would never admit that they dealt drugs the way you just did. Right. Why are you willing to admit that and own it?
Because we got to be real. This world is full of so many fake people out there trying to present themselves with this high on a pedestal, untouchable character that they've never done anything wrong. And that's not what people connect with. People want somebody who's real and who's been through things and have experienced life's adversities and have overcome them, because then it gives them hope that they can do so